Do you ever have messages get garbled in the workplace environment? For those who do, I wanted to share an example of what formal communications looks like, at least in the nuclear submarine force. So I was in the nuclear Navy for 5 years, and so this is how we would communicate an order. I can tell you a little, I'll walk you through it. We're going to have 3 characters here. So we're going to have the engineering officer of the watch. That's the person that's going to be giving the initial order. There's going to be the electrical operator, and that's a person who, a watchstander who sits in maneuvering together with the engineering officer of the watch, and is often the one that's handling communications, sending orders out to people in the engine room. And then we're going to have a watchstander in engine room lower level, who is actually going to carry out this made-up order. So I'm going to make up a system called we're going to call it just the freshwater system, and we're going to make up a particular valve. We'll call it freshwater 16. But of course, in the Navy, we're not going to call it 16. We're going to call it 16 because 16 could get easily confused with 60 if you're trying to shout when there's a steam line rupture. So we're going to call this valve freshwater 16. So let's say the engineering officer of the watch wants to get this valve shut. And we would use the word shut, not close, because close, if you're shouting, could sound like open. So we're going to stick to particular vocabulary. So here is the entire flow of communications, and it's quite a bit of words to get one valve shut. So first, the engineering officer of the watch is going to say to electrical operator to engine room lower level, shut freshwater 16. Then the electrical operator is going to acknowledge that. To engine room lower level, shut freshwater 16, electrical operator I. Now the electrical operator is going to use the phone system and go whoop whoop and to ring up the engine room lower level, who goes over and picks up the handset. And then the electrical operator says, engine room lower level maneuvering, shut freshwater 16. And the engine room lower level acknowledges that order, saying, engine room lower level, shut freshwater 16, I. Then the electrical engine room lower level now actually goes and carries out that order and shuts freshwater 16. And then it goes back and calls up maneuvering on the phone. And maneuvering picks up, and then he said, and it picks up, and the electrical operator picks up the phone and says maneuvering, and maneuvering electrical operator, and then engine room lower level is going to say, maneuvering engine room lower level, freshwater 16 is shut. And then maneuvering is going to acknowledge that report, saying freshwater 16 is shut, I. And then the electrical operator is going to turn to the engineering officer of the watch and say, engineering officer of the watch from engine room lower level, freshwater 16 is shut. And the engineering officer of the watch, to complete this whole cycle, will say, very well, electrical operator, or might actually repeat it back, saying freshwater 16 is shut, I. And then the engineering officer of the watch will probably turn to his plastic chart behind him or her and update the valve chart showing that the valve is now shut. So that's an example of maybe to the extreme, but that's how we would pass orders back and forth. And it sounds a little bit silly, but when one valve out of place could cause flooding or sink your ship, you're going to be pretty serious about it. You probably don't want to necessarily go to this level of set of repeat backs and so forth in everyday civilian work, but it is a framework that I keep in mind when I'm doing consulting, thinking about has the other person got the same message that I wanted to send. So you could think about using this at least philosophically to, when you give a request out or when you give an order, making sure the person plays it back to you in their own words, and then also doing that closing the loop portion of it, of when it's done, making sure that the standard expectation is that they'll report back that it's been complete. So that is how we would shut a valve in the Navy. Thanks for listening to Unleashed. This is your host, Will Bachman. Unleashed is produced by Umbrex, which connects top-tier independent management consultants with one another. You can learn more about Umbrex by visiting umbrex.com.